new AI features in Coda with ChatGPT a couple days ago, and got some feedback from folks about how to improve this experiment. And this is V2. So instead of just giving a general recommendation on how to do the exercise, I actually divided this up into the three main sections of the fear-setting exercise, which is define your fears, prevent the worst-case scenario, repair the damage. So let's see how ChatGPT does with doing fear setting for each of these three things using someone who is, let's say, deciding whether to quit their job. And so what happens is first define your fears runs, and you can't do prevent or repair until the fears are defined. So as this is running, once this is complete, then prevent and repair will happen. And let's take a look at some of the results so far. Someone who's deciding whether or not to quit their job. Fear of financial instability. Quitting a job can mean a loss of steady income. Leaving a comfortable job, pursuing a direction can be daunting. Social condemnation. Society often values stability. All pretty standard fears for whether you should decide to quit your job. Now let's move on to the worst case scenario, and hopefully this will run soon. So what's happening now is AI is looking at this result, which was a response from AI. It's taking this response and then coming up with ways to prevent the worst case scenario. This doesn't look too good, not really great, but repair the damage looks pretty good. Identify the worst case scenarios for each fear, include the likelihood of each scenario actually occurring, determine what steps. So not too bad, but not great. Let's try a different decision. Someone who is struggling, let's say someone who's struggling to get a promotion at work, also work related. Maybe it will answer it a little better. Yeah, a lot of this really depends on how good you make the prompt. So this define your fears came back. It says fear of failure. The person is afraid to try and fail getting promotion. Makes sense. Unknown. The person may be afraid of uncertainty. Missing out. The person may be afraid of missing out on their other opportunities that may come their way if they focus too much on getting this promotion. So I'd say this does a pretty good job of brainstorming the fears for someone who's struggling to get a promotion at work. Then the worst case, how to prevent the worst case scenario. So it goes through each of these options, and it still uses the context of the decision of getting a promotion at work. So fear of failure. Ways you can prevent this fear is identify the worst case scenario, list steps you can take to minimize the likelihood, fear of the unknown, identify potential risks of accepting the promotion, such as new responsibilities. Not too bad. And now let's look at the damage. How you can repair the damage from these worst case scenarios, determine the likelihood of each scenario actually occurring, brainstorm possible ways to prevent this, prioritize the fears. So it's doesn't do too bad of a job of brainstorming all the different options. Now let's do the fun part, which is give the advice in the voice of, let's say, Taylor Swift. Let's see how she would define the fears for you, or give you advice from her perspective. And I think this is hitting on the edges of AI because I don't think it can give you the exact or mimic the person's voice. Let's see what it comes up with. So the fears look the same, doesn't seem anything different from the voice. Oh, here we go. Taylor Swift might describe it as a feeling like you're never going to be enough, no matter how hard you try. Fear of judgment. Taylor Swift could say that it feels like everyone's staring at you, waiting for you to trip and fall. Taylor Swift, fear of the unknown. Taylor Swift might liken it to jumping out of an airplane without a parachute where you have no idea what's going to happen. It's kind of cool. It's taking, I think, lyrics from her songs and applying them to the exercise. I'm curious. Okay, it already came back with the repair. Oh, let's do worst case scenario first. I think, oh, here we go. Worst case scenario, fear of it's like possibility, fear judgment. Oh, this is actually the same thing as this almost. Repair the damage. Yeah, so it does this kind of the same thing, just showing similar responses as the define. Let's try a different decision. Let's say someone who's deciding whether to ask their significant other to marry them, doing fear setting from the voice or perspective of Taylor Swift. So again, the first thing it has to run is define. Let's wait for this to come back. What if he says no? So we're breaking it. What if I'm not ready for forever? So this looks like it's literally just taking lyrics from her songs and applying it to these fears that come from someone deciding whether or not to ask their significant other to marry them. So how would Taylor Swift, from her perspective, prevent these fears from happening? Let's see what she would potentially say. I'm actually surprised that AI hasn't said I can't do this yet. Okay, so this is repeating the define part. This is still repeating it too. This is fear, some fear of change unknown. It's more to remember. Still, it's pretty good. It's just, if anything, it's creative and gives you ideas on how this person might respond to that fear or this important decision using the fear setting framework. So, not too shabby.